Sales Rep Radio.
Hi, everybody. This is Dan Walker, and this is Sales Rep Radio, a presentation of timeless sales tips and best practices from some of the world's most talented sales consultants. It's news from your world, and it starts right now.
Hot tips, Sales Rep Radio.
In a perfect world, when you walk into a sales call, you would just instinctively know the right things to say to your prospect to get them to crave your product or service, get them excited, get the deal. But in most cases, unless you're clairvoyant, you don't know what they're thinking. You've got to get into their head by asking good questions. Retired top consultant, trainer, and best-selling author Steve Waterhouse is here with some great ideas on how to ask better questions. Steve, it's great to have you here on Sales Rep Radio.
Thanks, Dan.
Steve, you say many of us aren't asking the right questions when it comes to our clients' needs.
Questions are the essence of everything in life. Just think about it. When you want to learn something, you have to ask a question. The key to sales is not telling the client what you want them to hear. The key is to tell the client what they want to hear. But how could we possibly do that if we didn't ask questions?
Yeah, we'd just be shooting from the hip, basically.
That's the one thing we can't do today in sales. There was a time in sales when you could shoot from the hip. There was a time when you could walk in and ask dumb questions. But that doesn't work anymore. Today, it's a more sophisticated marketplace. Today, the client expects that you and I know something about what they do. And today, they expect that we're coming in trying to solve a problem for them. But we don't know what the problem is. Sometimes we think we know what our product does. But so often, we discover that in the eyes of the client, the solution is so different than we would have proposed. And so by asking good questions, we essentially let the client script our sales presentation. What could be easier than having the client tell you what to tell them?
That'd certainly put us on the fast track to success, but we'd have to be pretty thoughtful about the types of questions we ask them, right?
Well, you have to be thoughtful about what you ask them, but you don't have to be a genius. I have to tell you, I don't find a lot of great examples of salesmanship on car lots, but I did find one recently. My wife and I were looking for a car. We had just started our search, and we went on this one particular lot. Now, because it was the beginning of the search, I didn't want to bother a salesperson, and so as soon as we got out of our car, this guy came up and he said, "Can I help you?" I said, "No, we're just looking. We have no idea. I don't even know whether I want a truck or a car. Just let us go look." And he said, "Fine, no problem." So we went out on the lot. We spent some time, and as we were coming back to the car, I thought I'd gotten away with it. I thought I'd got back in the car before he'd see me, and nope, he came out. And he walked up to us and said, "Well, did you see anything that you liked?" And I said, "Well, we're just the beginning." And I tried to blow him off on it. He said, "It's very difficult sometimes to make a decision." He said, "Let me ask you a question. What would you like it to do?" Doesn't sound like a difficult question. It must have been the key to my wife's mouth, because instantly she starts to talk about all the things she wanted the car to do. She starts to talk about how she wants it to carry things home from Home Depot, and how she wants it to carry the groceries, and how she wants to carry the kids back from the airport. Well, the next thing you know, he's got everything he needs to be able to propose a solution to us. And he turned to me and said, "Would you like to see a car that does all that and will astound you?" What he was saying was not rocket science, but it was nothing without the question that had set everything up.
He just asked the question that opened the floodgate of information he needed.
He did, and it was so simple because he understood the power of questions. But we can understand that there are three basic types of questions, and I think every salesperson, every person who ever wants to gather information, be they salesperson or otherwise, should know the three basic types of questions, being closed-end, open-end, and directive questions. Can I tell you a little bit about those?
Absolutely. Let's start with the closed-end question.
The closed-end questions, Dan, everybody knows. We've all been through this. The closed-end questions are, would you like this? Yes, no. The way they end. How many of these would you like? It ends in a number. These are very abrupt questions that don't end in a lot of data. Now, there's nothing wrong with closed-end questions. There are times when we need to ask them. There are times when we need a piece of information, and a very specific closed-end question will get us that piece of information. Would you like the red one or the blue one? What color would you like? Those kinds of things. So closed-end questions have their purpose. You have to remember to use them only appropriately. because they don't dig out the real stuff. Open-ended questions dig out more, much more, because in an open-ended question, you start to talk about the types of information that the client needs to tell you. For instance, you might say, what do you think I should know about your company in order to make this presentation to you? Let the client tell you. Or who else will be involved in this process? Or tell me about your decision-making process. Now, see, I've started to move actually from open-ended into a different type of question when I said tell me, and that's the directive question. I said, tell me a little bit about your company. That's not a question, is it? And yet we put it in the question process because it's the third and most powerful level, the directive question. The directive question instructs the person to give you the information, and it's amazing how easy it is to use. When you let yourself be in charge of what you want to hear back from the customer, and say, for instance, share with me your attitudes toward our company. Share with me what you know about our industry. Share with me a little bit about your experience with buying this kind of product before. And from that kind of a conversation comes just a flood of information that will allow you to set up everything you need to make the sale.
Steve, that almost seems like cheating.
It's never cheating when you're helping a customer do the right thing. You know, the difference between a sale and a scam is not technique, it's ethics. And I think sometimes we forget that the same techniques are used by the Enrons of the world or by the sleazy salespeople that can be used by those of us that are professionals. It's not about the technique. It is all about the ethics. It's about when you use them and how you use that information. And so as salespeople, we want to be asking questions that help us help the customer. If what we're offering is something that is to the benefit of the client, then we have accomplished exactly what we want to accomplish.
So all you're doing is, to borrow a phrase from a movie, is saying to your client, help me help you.
And that's exactly, help me help you. Show me what you want me to tell you. It's amazing how often that works. I never start a presentation without saying to the client, tell me what you'd like me to tell you. Tell me what you'd like to hear today. And they will tell me, oh, I'd like to hear a little bit about this, or I'd like to hear about that, or I'd like to hear about the other thing. I don't jump in and start saying, here is what we do as a company. What I start is, before I get started, would you please share with me a little bit about what you'd like to learn about my company and our offerings before I get started? And then they give me the roadmap. And from that roadmap, they end up much more satisfied at the end of the presentation than they would have been had we not asked the questions. Again, our goal is to figure out what the client wants to be told about our offering. When you know that, then you can fulfill their need in much less time, and you will be the person that they say, I love talking with that salesperson. Every time I meet with them, they're able to get to the heart of my issue and solve a problem for me faster than anybody else I deal with. Well, it's not because they know so much about their product. As a matter of fact, some of the best people that are great at this technique know very little about their products. But what they know is how to find out what the key issues are with the client. And then they can go back to their company and articulate to their specialists what the need is and connect the specialists at their company with the client's specialists and make the sale. The key is not being the expert in the technical side. The key is being the expert in the investigative side.
That all makes perfect sense. But to play devil's advocate, is there any situation where this doesn't work all the time?
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, let me tell you where you will avoid using it, where you should use it. And that is when you walk into the client and you've got a half-an-hour appointment or an hour appointment, and the client comes up to you and says, listen, I'm sorry, I know this is our first meeting together and we were supposed to have an hour together, but I've only got 2 minutes. Tell me what you got for me and make it quick. And our tendency is to spew out a bunch of stuff that we guess might be the right information for them. Don't do it. Recognize the power of what we're talking about, the power of questions, and reschedule so that you've got the time to do it right. Your sales percentage will go through the roof. You always win when you do the process correctly.
Now, wouldn't you think an approach like that, Steve, would rub the client the wrong way?
The truth is, If they do, then there probably wasn't going to be a deal there anyway. I always find that if I sell properly, people respect it and they respect the way I'm doing business. If I can't sell them the right way, I probably couldn't have sold them the wrong way. And so it's not about me trying to push them around. It's about my understanding that this is the right way for me to help them. And as long as I keep their interest paramount in the way I present, I've never had anyone get upset.
Great advice as always. Well, Steve, what final thought would you like to leave us with today?
You know, one of the things, Dan, that we've gotten tied up in over the years is the difference between selling products and selling services. And some people say, well, I'm great at selling products, and some people say I'm great at selling services. And I hope everyone realizes that it really doesn't matter what you're selling. What matters is what the client is buying and what they need. And forget about all of those other details. Focus on the client, and you will realize that you can switch into products that are brand new to you, products that you've been selling for a long time, products that are services. It doesn't matter. You will come to the essence of the client's need quicker by using questions well.
Steve Waterhouse, always great to have you on board. Thank you so much for joining us on Sales Rep Radio.
Thanks, Dan.
That's it for now, folks. Sales Rep Radio is a production of the Marcom Store, the place for corporate training, training reinforcement, and internal communications, including e-learning, video, and corporate podcasts just like this one. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this podcast. This is Dan Walker. Thank you so much for listening in. We'll see you again next time for another edition of Sales Rep Radio.